Hey everyone. So for the majority of this year, we've kind of learned about the government and things they can and cannot do. We haven't really talked about us all that much. We've talked a little bit about us and the things that we do and how we can get involved in government, but we really haven't talked too much about what our role is in society and the things we can do, should do, and have to do to make our communities and our schools and our country a better place. So that's what we're going to look at in this pod. To start, we're going to try and figure out what a citizen is, because we're all citizens in some way, or most of us are, and we're going to try and define that term and figure out what a citizen is before we talk about the things that a citizen has to do, should do, and are allowed to do. So our first lesson is going to look at who citizens are. How do we become citizens? And if we're not a citizen, how can we go through the process of becoming one? So we're going to define the steps taken to obtain citizenship in the United States. Some of them are easier than others. We're going to describe the characteristics of a citizen, as well as analyze the type of citizenship. Essential questions are: what makes someone a citizen of the United States, and how does someone become a citizen of the United States? So what we're looking at is citizenship, how you get it, and once you do have citizenship, what rights, responsibilities, and duties come with that. So what is a citizen? A citizen is just a person who lives in a place and then has some kind of privileges or rights from living in that place. So it doesn't have to be just a country. Like, you're a citizen of the town that you live in. You could be considered a citizen of Achievement House Cyber Charter School, and you can be considered a citizen of the United States. So you're a citizen of the places that you live in or the places that you attend. So how do we determine who citizens are? The 14th Amendment established this after slavery. I'll read it to you. It says, "All persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to this jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside." So that means that if you're born in the United States, or you go through a process to become a citizen, you can be a U.S. citizen and you get all the things that come with citizenship, like rights. So, born in the United States. We're going to go through both things. We'll go through born and we'll go through naturalization. Natural born citizenship is based on two laws. So how do you become a U.S. citizen? Just by being born. If you are born in the United States or one of the United States' territories or possessions around the world, you become a U.S. citizen. So just if you're born on U.S. soil, you're a U.S. citizen. What if you're born in a foreign place, like another country, but your parents are U.S. citizens? Then you're a U.S. citizen as well. I'll give you an example. A friend of mine, parents were U.S. citizens, but they were in Italy when he was born. So he was still a U.S. citizen even though he was born in Italy because his parents were U.S. citizens. So if you're born on U.S. soil or your parents are U.S. citizens, you become a U.S. citizen just by birth. Kind of ways to remember that: law of the soil, where you are born must be within the United States or territory possession. Law of the blood, who you are born to. So if you're born on U.S. soil, you're a citizen. If you're born to U.S. citizens, if your parents are U.S. citizens, then you're also a U.S. citizen. Natural born citizens, those are the people that we've been talking about. They are born with all the rights held by U.S. citizens, given by the U.S. Constitution. So when you're born, you get all those rights. You don't have to do anything to get those rights, you just have them. You're eligible to become a senator, representative, president. You can run for office if you're a natural born citizen. Now what about if you're not born in the United States or your parents aren't U.S. citizens? Can you become a U.S. citizen? The answer is yes. You can be naturalized. Naturalized is a fancy way of saying the process of becoming a citizen. And there's some steps and some rules that you got to go through, and we'll go through those real quick. So who are naturalized citizens? Naturalized citizens are non-citizens who go through a legal means of becoming a citizen. In order to become a naturalized U.S. citizen, you must go through several steps. So that's like if you come here from another country and you want to be a U.S. citizen, You got to do it the legal way, and you got to go through a process. So what is that process? Congress gets to decide that. Congress decides all the naturalization laws. States don't. So the first thing that has to happen is you have to be a person who is 18 years old, and you have to have lived in the United States legally for 5 years. Some of that stuff's changing over the past few months, but right now that's how it's set up. So you got to be 18, and you have to have lived in the United States for 5 years before you can start going through this process. What else do you have to do? You have to file a petition, which is just paperwork basically, for naturalization. You have to take an examination that shows that you can read, speak, and write simple English, and have a fair knowledge of American history, government, and the Constitution. So you actually have to take a little bit of a test that has questions on it, and you have to get a certain percentage right. You also have to be able to prove that you're of good moral character, which means you're a good person. How do you prove that? You get two people that are already American citizens to verify that, to kind of vouch for you and back up that you're going to be a good citizen and that you're going to be loyal to the United States. It's almost like recommendations. You got to get them to recommend you as a good citizen. Once you're naturalized, once you go through that process, and it does take some time, you get all of the rights that are in the Constitution, just like people who are born in this country do. The only right you don't get is you cannot run for president if you are a naturalized citizen. So you might be thinking, that doesn't cover everyone in the United States. There's people who weren't born here and never went through the naturalization process. So who are they? We'll call them aliens. They're merely living in the country, but that does not mean that they're a citizen of that country. They live here, but they're not a legal citizen. So they still have to do all the things that we have to do, obey laws, pay taxes, and stuff like that. But they have to register, and they have to be on the government's radar of living in this country. If they don't do that, they're known as illegal aliens. Our Congress gets to decide all the rules as far as immigration goes. Those people that come to this country seeking citizenship or coming illegally are known as immigrants. And Congress gets to decide how those immigrants are processed and whether or not they can become citizens. A lot of people have come to the United States over U.S. history. In 1776, the population of the United States was only 2.5 million people. Today, it's over 300 million people. Since 1820, 70 million people have come to the United States as immigrants. And think about it, a lot of those people have had kids as well. If you're a U.S. citizen today, there's a good chance that someone in your past was born somewhere else, not in the United States. There's a good chance that at some point, someone in your distant past, or maybe even recent past, came to the United States from somewhere else and went through that naturalization process. You might have no idea who those people were or are, but somebody in your distant past, maybe like a great-great-great-grandmother or something like that. So most people are derived from an immigrant, somebody that came from somewhere else. Can you lose that citizenship? You can. So how do you lose citizenship? There's things you can do to lose it. You can decide to become naturalized in another country, which means you're a citizen of a different country, so then you lose your U.S. citizenship. If you swear an allegiance to another country, like you decide that you want to fight for a different country, maybe in a war or something like that, you can lose your U.S. citizenship. If you serve in the armed forces of a nation at war with the United States, or you're an officer in that force, so if you go and join another military, that's an example. So there's all kinds of things that you can do to lose that citizenship. So what we've looked at in this lesson is just what a citizen is and how you get citizenship. We'll look more at what comes with citizenship and the things that we get to do, the things that we have to do, and the things that we should do throughout the rest of the pod. Be sure to join us for a live class on Tuesdays and Thursdays. If you have questions or need help, please contact me. The information's there. If you don't need help, good luck.